It's finally here. On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, the NBA draft kicks off tonight at 8 p.m. in Brooklyn. 76ers with the 23rd overall pick. We might have some things happening beginning this evening. There are already things touching up around the league. We'll dive into it all next, right here. Draft day. Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are Locked On 76ers. I'm Devon Gibbons from 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia, Sports Talk Radio, alongside my co-host and partner, Keith Pompey, Sixers beat writer for the Inquirer.com. Keith, we're here. It's draft day. Not like it used to be, but it's still draft day. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yourself, bro? Yourself?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On 76ers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts on all platforms, including right here on YouTube at Locked On 76ers. We appreciate you checking us out here as well. I'm back here in Philadelphia. Keith is in New York getting ready for the draft. And man, just quickly, I know you've only been there for a few hours getting there on Wednesday, but can you kind of tell a little bit the buzz? You've been doing this for a long time. Sixers related. We've seen higher draft selections for the 76ers in previous years, but when you get to New York, do you kind of feel that buzz as we get closer to the draft?
Not like you used to. I mean, beforehand, before it was a little different thing because you would get up there the day before. I mean, I still got here the night before, but we would get there early the day before, and the Sixers were always like in the lottery, right? So, that's how you spoke to Ben Simmons, you spoke to Markelle Fultz, all these other guys who were destined to be, lottery picks and high picks. So there was a lot of excitement there. Now you look at it, the Sixers are one of those teams where, they graduated from that, which is a good thing for them.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So there isn't that type of buzz. It's the buzz for like OKC's, the Spurs now, Orlando, who's always been in the mix like that. So everybody's talking about these guys. And it's funny because I don't mean to, I'm not disparaging anybody or putting them down, but for a lot of these guys, this right now is the best moment of their life because they're going to be lottery picks and everyone is like raving over them. They're this, they're that. It's like they're the man. They're their main attraction. In a couple of months, they're just going to be a rookie on a bad team or a rookie. And some of them are going to excel. Other ones may not live up to the hype. And when that stuff happens, it's kind of sort of like we forget about it. Like we forget that who was taken sixth in the 1997 draft. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. People forget that stuff. So this is the best time of their life. So it's time for them to enjoy it.
Yeah, man, and it's really cool because I've always, as a basketball fan, the draft day was always big for me. During the summer, you knew that, of course, the draft coming around. You knew the college players, you knew who they were, you knew how talented they were in the collegiate ranks, and now how is it going to translate to the pros? And a lot of times it's about situation, where you end up, and all of that. And growing up in Philadelphia, when I was rooting for the 76ers, growing up as a kid, you always wanted to see your team, of course, grab that best player possible. So you have your memories of Sean Bradley being selected at number 2 versus Penny Hardaway, who goes number 3. You know what I'm saying? And that part right there, you have those types of memories that you think of. And then me on a personal level, in 2018, as we did the show 2 days ago with Mccollum Bridges, again, just for people who didn't know, my family, and that was a thrill. That was a different treat because, I played basketball too, and we all in the family thought we could get to that level, and he's the one who did it. So it was great. And knowing that he was going to be a lottery pick and he was really held in high regard around the NBA and what people thought of him, even though I wasn't there in New York, being back here in Philadelphia at the training facility during the show, during his draft, that one really hit home. Of course, seeing my family get drafted. So that was a special night. But it's always cool. It's always really cool when draft rolls around. And as you pointed out, Keith, already, we for many years had the 76ers at very, very high during the rebuild, from Nerlens Noel, Michael Carter-Williams, Dario Saric, Jahlil Okafor, all of these names, Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons that you talk about. You remember them all. And that was a very once the draft rolled around, it was a fun time. It was hard watching the basketball during the season. But when the draft came around, all right, this is where do you start? Where do you put this team together? So always fun, man. But listen, tonight, of course, pick number 23, Keith, I think I would be shocked if the 76ers, once they pick at 23, which they will, keep the pick. I would be shocked.
Yeah, same here. I would be shocked too. I mean, the thing is, it's weird. I think the last couple of years, since Daryl Morey has been here, we all been like, oh, what is Morey going to do? What is Morey going to do? And for the most part, he really hasn't made any moves besides the James Harden deal. Now, he did pick up a couple guys. I'm talking about major moves. Like, he picked up a couple guys and after they were waived or buyout markets and stuff like that. But he really hasn't made any blockbuster moves. So when you hear something like that, you say to yourself, okay, they may not do anything this year. But like you said, you're going to be shocked because all that they need to get, like they need to clear money off the cap space. And the best way of doing that is getting rid of this guy and bringing someone else in. I'm talking about the guy, number 20, the 23rd pick, because he's not going to help the Sixers. He's not going to help the Sixers in regards to winning and losing games, and especially in the playoffs, and if they make it to the finals. They need to get off of that pick.
Especially if Doc Rivers doesn't want to play young players. Well, certain young players. Who knows? Maybe there's someone in the draft that they actually like and they want to keep it. How surprised would you be if they did keep it?
For right now,
I
would be surprised. I would really, the real surprising thing would be if they kept that draft throughout. I mean, at the start of the season, that draft pick. You know what I mean? Like, I would be like, I expect them to make a trade tonight, but it's kind of like, they got to get something, or there's a team has to be willing to give them something. But after the free agency period or during free agency period, like, kind of like, who was it? Thad Young. You remember with Andrew Wiggins when Cleveland wanted to get rid of him, so they lumped the Sixers into a 3-team trade, and where Thad went to Minnesota as well. Like, I can see something like that happening. Again, I'm expecting them to make a trade. I mean, I believe that they will make a trade tonight, but I wouldn't be shocked if they don't. But I would be shocked if that player played a regular season game with the 76ers or was on a regular season roster. That's when I'll be shocked.
All right, I understood, man. And a big night, nevertheless, for the Sixers, because building forward, of course, with this team in contention right now and win now mode, tonight is important, the start of the basically NBA calendar. We'll get to more next about the pick itself, of course, and some other things that could potentially get in the way, especially with the deal that happened between Detroit and Portland, how that impact and why it will impact the Sixers with one of their players, specifically Tobias Harris. We'll do that next right here on Locked On 76ers. And folks, got to tell you about, Keith has talked about it. I wanted his turn to talk about it. Arcade One Up. I wasn't letting him steal this one all by himself. If they sent us an arcade game, we both get an arcade game. And look, as a kid growing up, one of my favorite, NBA Jam. Boom Shakalaka. You remember that? Yes. And well, we have big news. The one, the only NBA Jam is back. Arcade One Up, the leader in at-home retro arcade games, is not only bringing the best game ever back, but they made it bigger than ever with a, wait for it, Shaq edition. It doesn't get any bigger than the Shaq edition, right? Well, listen, when I was a kid growing up playing with my brother, my dad, my cousins, my close friends coming over, NBA Jam was it. 2 players from each of the NBA teams out there on any court that you decided to use, and he's on fire. The flips in the air as you get the ball and do the dunks the way that you do, the way that you would blow the team out and then taunt. Like I would taunt Keith Pompey if we were playing this game and I would defeat him in this one. I had a blast playing that game as a kid, whether it was Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, you try to use the Chicago Bulls, Atlanta Hawks, whoever it was always fun. And people are obsessed with NBA Jam. And I'm thrilled to tell our listeners that you can once again play hoops with NBA legends in this arcade classic. Just jump across the court, set the ball on fire. I talked about it. And one of the first sports games ever to feature real and digitized NBA licensed teams, right? You remember that. That's why I just brought it up. Chicago, Seattle, Atlanta, fun. No fouls, no free throws. It's basically like playing out on the blacktop around the way, and no quarters required. Compete with friends and family through all new Wi-Fi leaderboards. Didn't have that when I was playing it, making you more connected than ever. Pre-order now from arcade1up.com. That's arcade, the number 1 up.com for an estimated early September ship date. Arcade One is the best place for fun. They've got even more classics like Golden Tee, Mortal Kombat, and many others starting at just $399. So check this out. They're giving away an NBA Jam Shaq edition to a Locked On listener. Could be you. Enter for a chance to win a game console for your man cave at arcade1up.com/locked on. That's arcade #1up.com/locked on. You've got till July 8th to enter to win NBA Jam, the Shaq Edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with? Love that game. Love it.
Yeah.
Me and my dad used to go at it in that game.
Did you beat him?
Yeah, I would beat him. He would get me too, but I would beat him. Yeah, of course. Love that game.
Hey, before we get into something, D, before we get into the next segment, I want to read this to you, right?
Yeah.
So we talk about these drafts. Remember how I said, like, sometimes the draft is the greatest thing for these guys. It's like the highlight of their career. You know, everybody loves them. So let's go over the 2013 draft. And I'm going to go with the lottery picks. Lottery picks, top 14 players. Giannis wasn't a lottery pick, right? Number 1.
He was picked 15. Yep.
Yeah, he was right outside. So he wasn't a lottery. So number 1, Anthony Bennett. Number 2,
Victor Oladipo. Yeah.
Victor Oladipo. Number 3, Otto Porter. 4, Cody Zeller.
Yeah.
5, Alex Len. 6, Nerlens Noel. 7, Ben McLemore.
Yeah.
8, Contavious Caldwell Pope. 9, Trey Burke. 10, CJ McCollum. 11, Michael Carter Williams, Sixers. 12, Steven Adams. 13, Kelly Olynyk. And 14, Shabazz Muhammad. There's like 3 guys in this list that's not even in the league anymore. And only 2 of them right now are full-time starters.
Yeah.
We're talking about McCollum and Pope, right? The rest of them, I mean, Victor Oladipo was an all-star, right? Mm-hmm. But now he's coming off the bench. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a knock against, the draft, but it's just when you look back at that draft, dude.
Some years are just weaker than others. And it's not an exact science. It's not an exact science. And the one thing that I remember specifically from that one was the CJ McCollum part at number 9. Was it 9 or 10? I think he was at 10. He was drafted right before Michael Carter Williams. The Sixers didn't even work him out. And
he was begging to be a Sixer. You remember?
He was right here in the backyard at Lehigh, and they didn't even work him out. And I didn't understand that because they work out everybody, even guys, with all due respect to certain players that play in the Big Five from all the schools in the City Six here with all the colleges, they work everybody out. And CJ McCollum was a lottery pick, and they didn't work him out. Not even a sneak in the back door workout like Andre Iguodala. I mean, it was because I remember when Mustafa Shakur had snuck in Iguodala, they connected with him. A Philadelphia guy played at Arizona with Iguodala, and they had to sneak him in the quiet workout back door, and they did one day, and it all worked out. But so again, they know how to get in contact with people. CJ McCollum didn't even work out for them.
Nah, and here's the funny thing. So when we look at this draft, right, So we talked about Giannis going number 15, right? But then you have a guy like Rudy Gobert who went number 27. He was, traded Denver, drafted by Denver and traded, But, you look at that stuff and you're saying to yourself, like, man, what the heck was going on? Like, what was really going on? But it wasn't a good draft when you look at it now. But, the Greek Freak is a Hall of Famer. Rudy Gobert,
probably a Hall of Famer.
Probably a Hall of Famer, All-Star. And these were two of the guys who went towards, well, one went to the mid first round. The other one was a late first round pick. And though them and McCollum, you have to say, probably had, for the longevity of their careers, probably had the three most successful.
And I thought a lot of those players that you rattled off would be some really good basketball players. And, I was wrong with that one. But hey, that's how it works, man. But you know what? Let's push this next conversation to the final segment, Keith, where we will discuss about the trade that took place and how it may affect the 76ers. The Detroit Pistons and the Portland Trailblazers got together on Wednesday night for a trade with a pretty good name that a lot of Sixer fans wanted to see if they could get their hands on and bring them back to Philadelphia. We'll tell you who that is as we thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast for nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast, and in this particular case, the NBA draft. We come right back. We get into that trade, how it affects the Sixers, and why that one player that we thought might be on the move may stay with the team. We'll do that next here, Locked On 76ers. All right, welcome back. On Wednesday, the Portland Trailblazers and the Detroit Pistons, they got together for a deal, and that was Jerami Grant traded from Detroit to Portland for the 2025, Keith, first-round pick. Not the 7th overall pick in tonight's draft, but the 2025 pick. Portland was also able to use a trade exception that they had to kind of move that instead of a player. So Detroit frees up some more space. They get rid of the number from Jerami Grant. But the point of it is why this affects the Sixers is because we've heard Jerami Grant not only possibly to Philadelphia, but also, or at least players wanting him, fans wanting him coming back to Philadelphia, but also Tobias Harris. Could that have been a landing spot for him in Portland because they could absorb that contract? Well, he's a wing player, more so the 4, but a wing player in general, that maybe now Tobias Harris, that's one more from Oklahoma City and now Portland, the deals that they have made, that's one more team crossed off the list that may not be able to take back Tobias Harris. Yeah,
the thing I think, the one thing that stood out to me was, when we talk about Portland, one of the biggest concerns about that team is defense. Secondly, when you look at their coach that the Trailblazers has, he was a defensive-minded player, and he was preaching defense. And Jerami Grant, as much as Tobias is a great player, they could have absorbed that contract. But I think the thing is, when you look at Jerami Grant, he's like a little bit more interchangeable. Tobias is too, but he might be a little bit more than Tobias, with the length. Yeah. And the thing about
athleticism.
Athleticism. Now, a lot of people were like, you mean to tell me all Detroit got was a first-round pick from 2025 back?
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing?
Right.
But what they're actually doing is they have around $50 million in cap space now. They're going to have that. And they can go after Clint Capella, a guy that some people were saying they want to go after, or Rudy Gobert. So there's DeAndre Ayton. So there are like 3 options that they have. Now the thing about Ayton, be a little careful right about now, but you need to have a sit down and have a nice little conversation. But yeah, they can go after him too. But I think that's what it was. But yeah, you're right. For the Sixers, that would have been the perfect thing. The perfect thing, because you're getting $37 million off your cap, and then this guy, and then you're getting a future first round pick for it. I mean, that would have been the perfect thing for the Sixers to do.
Yeah, and look, even for Tobias Harris, who knows? I mean, maybe he would have maybe he would have wanted that type of role with Damian Lillard, where he would have been the second option there. Maybe a more free-flowing type of offense where he can do some more things, pick and roll, that type of stuff. Maybe that's something that, again, he would have wanted. I don't know that, and I'm not trying to put something out there as if that's information that we're sharing, but just looking at the player and being a fourth option now versus being a second option on the team out west with Damian Lillard, where maybe he feels like they could have paired up together and done some really good things there. So who knows, man? And so that one kind of affects things there for the 76ers. But hey, this is going to be a big night, and I'd imagine some things will start to go down as we get closer to draft night, 8 o'clock tonight. Keith, right now, put you on the spot. Orlando on the clock right now, #1 overall pick. Where do you go?
That's a tough one. I think I'm going with Jabari. The kid. I think I'm going with him. Like, you talk to certain people, and they talk about Chet and how he has a relationship with Jabari. He has a relationship with one player in particular. What's the guy's name who they drafted last year?
Suggs. Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, Jalen Suggs. He has a relationship with Jalen. But I just think that if you're going, number one, relationships are cool, and this guy Chet can turn out to be a pretty good player. But the things that I see with Jabari Smith, I really like it, and I feel
I think the fit shooting is better for him there.
Exactly, the fit's better, yeah. But I do have Holmgren going second to OKC though.
Yeah, and Paolo goes third to Houston. Yep, and the draft really starts at pick #4 with Sacramento, whether they trade it or keep it. And if they keep it, where do they go? Do they go Jaden Ivey? Do they go with Keegan Murray, who I love from Iowa? And do they go elsewhere? So that's the question. It really starts at pick #4 with Sacramento, and we go from there. So I agree with you, Jabari Smith to Orlando. That's a really good fit for him. And for Sixer fans out there, you don't know about Jabari Smith. His dad used to play for the Sixers. So, during the Iverson era. So Jabari Smith, his dad, Jabari Smith, played for the 76ers some years back. So Keith, man, listen, we'll have a blast there. We'll get back to, we'll let everybody know with me on the radio tonight and you in Brooklyn. We'll get together at some point for the Friday episode after the draft. We just don't know exactly at what point. So stay tuned. We will have it for you. Don't worry, because I'm sure we'll both have a lot of stuff to talk about. Keith will be on the ground there in Brooklyn. So some things I'm sure you will be able to uncover, and we'll see if the Sixers do anything at all. So we got to thank everybody for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We'll discuss the draft on our next episode on Friday. Now, make your second listen Locked On NBA. We're Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Keith?
Hey, you know what y'all can do? You can, wherever you get your podcasts at, you can go subscribe to our podcast at. Now, here's something else. If you want to get this Locked On 76ers YouTube podcast, go to our YouTube channel. And when you see that Liberty Bell, click on that button and then click on the Liberty Bell, actually. And then that's where you subscribe to our podcast. But like my man D said, listen to him tonight. On 97.5, and also keep up with me on
7 to 11 tonight.
7 to 11, and keep up with me and me and my coworkers at the Enquirer at enquirer.com tonight with our live blog and our coverage. But if you really want to get to know and get the skinny, in addition to that, you need to follow D on Twitter at DivonG975. And follow me at Pompey on Sixers.
Absolutely, man. Well, listen, have a blast. Look forward to talking to you. Basically keeping in touch as the night goes along. And we'll get together for this next one and see what the 76ers do with pick #23 and maybe more. Thanks, man.
Thanks. All right, brother. Peace.
All right, you got it.